Hello guys, this is Swiss. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to try to cover a very interesting topic, especially for those people just starting out in the metaverse or for people who have been around for some time but who never got to actually build anything in the space. And today I want to cover that topic. We will have to see how we will approach it. I'm currently here at the Hyperfy headquarters of mine, and I have also a window with Decentraland ready for this video. And I just want to go back to the time when I joined Decentraland. I have found a building like this, and I was wondering, how do people build something like this? What does it take? Especially when you're just starting out. This seems to be such a cool thing, and because you don't know how to do it, you are, you may be actually kind of scared to even find out because it looks so cool and it's so complex. But once you get into the subject matter, you realize that anyone can build something for the metaverse. And there are two things that I would like to discuss today. First of all, building something yourself, and then as a second option, having someone build something for you. And these are two very different processes, of course, and I would like to cover those. And let's see if we can include a couple of examples from Decentraland and from Hyperfy. As for me, these are two platforms that I like to use, and they are, somewhat different from each other. And hopefully, this will be a great introductory video for people, coming into a space like this, willing to, make a first step. So in Hyperfy, we actually have a closed metaverse, a world that only you occupy, and in Decentraland you actually only own a plot of land potentially if you were ready to invest a couple of $1,000s for a land plot. Like this building is standing on one land plot. Should you own an NFT from Decentraland, a land NFT, you will have access to a set of builder tools provided by Decentraland, and then you can put up something on this land. Whereas in Hyperfy, you also buy an NFT from the developers, and it is kept in your wallet, and then you can log in and you have access to an empty world like that, and you can populate that world. The concepts are very similar, it's just that the ownership of the NFT is different. Here you are in an isolated space, whereas on the Decentraland map you could encounter other land plot owners. And obviously the barrier to entry in terms of land prices are much higher in Decentraland right now. So for a lot of people, I would say the best place to start to build something would be in a isolated world, because it's just much cheaper and you have much more flexibility. The main difference, I think, is that in Decentraland, because you are on a common map, because you are in this decentralized ecosystem, you actually have a lot of limitations on how much resources you can use to build something. There are all sorts of file size restrictions, and also texturing restrictions that are almost not there in Hyperfy. And of course, there are other platforms similar to Hyperfy, such as OnCyber or Spatial, and many others that are coming up right now. And I think it's much easier for people starting out to have less limitations to what they can do, and also the results are much more interesting, I would say, especially that you have unlimited space here to build, whereas in Decentraland you would be confined to a small space. Here you have all of the liberty you can imagine, and I think that's a big advantage. Now let's talk about building something yourself. What does it really take to build a building like you see in front of you right now? Well, you need to know, and hopefully this is not too basic, but I think for people really just coming in for the first time, they will not know any of that information. The software that you use to build 3D objects for the metaverse is called Blender. I believe you can find it on blender.org if I'm not mistaken, and you can download it for free. It is somewhat of a complex software to learn, but it is also very powerful, and man, it's free. That means anyone can use YouTube tutorials to learn how to use Blender, and I actually have a couple of videos in the Decentraland playlist on my channel where I show you how to create a simple cube and how to export it and import it into Decentraland. And the people who can build a cube, they can build almost any kind of structure in Blender. If you would like to check that out, please go over to the Decentraland playlist. And this is quite an old video, by the way, guys. And this is it. The object type is this is a GLB file. A GLB file can be exported from Blender. So if you've built something in there, you can export it as a GLB file. And then once you have that done, you can drag and drop it directly into the world, into the browser window in Hyperfy. And for Decentraland, you have an upload process that you need to respect. You can check out a video on my channel in the Decentraland playlist as well on how to upload 3D objects into Decentraland right now. Please note, these videos, they quickly become outdated. Features and platforms are developed quickly. Tomorrow something may be available that is not currently available today, so keep that in mind. But for the most part, I think this should be valid for the next couple of months, as platforms have not yet adjusted very significantly in these particular differences. All right, guys, I mean, this is it. You have, if you have a Blender, you will be able to export a GLB file. You will be able to upload it onto the platform and position it somewhere in the space. You can have multiple GLB files for multiple objects. So for this particular example, we have this building here, which is a separate object, and then you have these furniture pieces, which are also separate objects. You can, of course, build them yourself, but you will quickly encounter various issues, such as, for example, texturing. One thing is to build a 3D object or model a 3D object. Another thing is to optimize it for it to be resource efficient, meaning that if you have a curved object, if you are not careful, it might consume a lot of resources, which add up once you put together a big building like this, or even bigger than that. So it is important to have someone help you with optimizing your objects so they are a little bit more low poly. And also texturing. Texturing is somewhat complex if you're starting out, especially if you want to do more sophisticated pieces of furniture. uh, it is fairly complicated. And this kind of takes me to the second point I wanted to discuss, because sometimes if you want to start in the metaverse, you don't want to spend a year trying to learn a software. You want to invite friends, you want to put up a link on your business card for your business where people can visit you in the 3D space. You want to start using a space, and instead of spending a year learning, you can actually work on something that you're good at. And I would say in many of the instances, it's just better to hire someone. And if you decide to hire someone to build something for you in the metaverse, there are two options. Once again, you can just find a 3D modeler. There are many 3D modeling professionals out there. Uh, However, many of them will have no experience building for the metaverse, meaning that they're not familiar with these platforms. They have never actually done anything for the metaverse, meaning that they will have to go through the documentation in order to check out what the limitations are. And frankly speaking, most of the time it will be you doing it, because these guys are 3D modelers. They are not project managers. They are not developers. They will be hesitating to, you know, deep dive into some sort of documentation. So I would say if you hire someone, you will probably need to find someone who is at least familiar with one of the metaverse platforms, so they don't fear working with the space. And also, you may be willing to hire someone who is very experienced with the particular platform that you want to build on, because then they will know how to troubleshoot these buildings or furniture pieces. They will be able to log in into the world. They will be able to use a wallet. They will be able to understand what an NFT is. Once they have this understanding, it's so much easier to work with people, because they can take a lot of the work off your plate by logging into the world, making sure it works, making sure the scale of the items is appropriate, making sure the textures look good. They can actually position the items and prepare things for you. Maybe they can even take more work off your plate than you expect. And I think for me, I have been recently working with a small team of experts in the space. They were originally 3D modelers, but now have evolved into, somewhat metaverse savvy guys. And I'm familiar with the platforms myself, so together we are able to quickly develop assets that work and look really nice in the space here. And this is true for Hyperfy, this is true for Decentraland. Even though there are different specifications that you need to pay attention to, once you've done it a couple of times, you are really ready to go and do some work for others as well. And this is what we've decided recently. Hey, we've been doing quite a lot of stuff for these worlds. why not offer this service for people if they are interested in. So if you would like to have something built, if you don't want to learn the software tools yourself, feel free to message me. You can find a link in my link tree on Twitter in the bio. You can also go to the website swissverse.org and you will find a way to contact me there. I think this is it for now, guys. I hope this was helpful to figure out how to build something in the metaverse. I think I think it's totally feasible to have something created for yourself, or learn the software by yourself and have fun, and maybe even do this work for others once you know how to. All right, guys. I hope this was useful. This was Swiss. Feel free to follow this channel. Feel free to hit the like button if this was of any use to you. Much appreciated. I see you in the next one, and bye bye.